Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Mail. So for today, I'm going to go over this great email I was sent from a subscriber. This is from a guy, he is mid-40s, he is divorced, very happily divorced, successful, he's done very well for himself, proud father of a great young gal, that says something nowadays. And he shares his story, which really is going to put a smile on your face in terms of success and karma, about his ex-wife, who after, I guess, about 6 or 7 years of marriage, abruptly wanted to divorce him because our guy here wasn't providing her a life and lifestyle she felt entitled to in terms of a big McMansion, luxury cars, the whole 9 yards. Essentially, she became, or always was, a gold digger. And to no surprise, guess who she gets involved with next? Well, as it turns out, life has a sense of humor. And fast forward in time, things aren't working out too well for her. And this guy definitely has the last laugh because he moves up in the world and she and her guy are moving down the world. And that'd be a great one to go. You're going to start the weekend a good, well, let's be honest here, kind of a revenge story, but also a success story and lessons about money and sticking to who you are and the old principles of saving money, being smart with money, and all that type of thing rolled into one. And oh yeah, by the way, it's a longer story, but it will not be split up into 2 videos. I'm going to put it all in one. So it starts off, says here, Hi SSM. After years of watching your channels, I thought it was the perfect time to share my story, which has an ending, due to recent events, that the community most certainly will appreciate. You can call me Tom, and when I was 26 years old, I got married to my girlfriend, Allison, who I've been with for nearly 5 years. Before we got married, I was hired at a small local company as an electrician. While I was making what I thought was okay money for my age and with the minimal experience, I always had my eye on one day owning my own business. My plan was to work my butt off, learn everything that I could, and eventually run my own company. Well, there you go. That's awesome. That's the smart way to go about it. I like to point out that Allison knew of my dream and fully supported it. She worked at a waitress at a high-end restaurant where she made great tips, more money than me actually at the time, and she'd work the lunch shift and some weekends if I was working on a Saturday or Sunday. Okay, let's highlight this part. She knew of his dream, that one day, even though he's not making tons of money because he's just starting off as an electrician, but in time he'll make more money and eventually wants to go in business for himself, she's cool with that. She's working as a waitress at a high-end restaurant. And who goes to high-end restaurants usually? People with money. Let's remember this. It's important to mention that the clientele at her restaurant during the Monday through Friday lunch shift were typically employees from a huge business campus not too far away. This campus had lots of different companies with offices, in particular tech companies, some of which are publicly traded companies that you would certainly know about and you would know their names. The clientele, mainly guys, like to act like big shots and naturally tip big to the pretty waitresses, including my wife. My wife and her coworkers would play along to keep the big tips flowing in. Well, there you go. I'm sure a lot of these guys were probably dorks and were loving the attention from the female cocktail waitresses and bartenders and regular waitresses and all that. I mean, as long as your wife was loyal to you, then it is what it is. You know, I mean, ideally you wouldn't want her in that environment, but, you know. Anyhow, not too long after we got married, my grandfather passed away. He and I were close, and he had a big part in raising me as with my own parents. He taught me how to fix things, reinforced a work ethic that both my parents had, and took a great pride in the fact that I looked like him when he was a young man. As tough as it was, he was old and had his own battles with cancer on and off for years, and I took it as a blessing that he went on his own terms in his own home, where he and my late grandma raised my dad and had a great life. He would have hated it to wither away. Well, not long after the funeral, my parents took me along to meet with his lawyer, and long story short, he left me his house. Hey, well, that's great. One, it doesn't go to strangers, and your grandpa would have loved that, and also, aside from the property taxes and insurance, hey, you don't have to, you know, I'm assuming it's reasonable, don't have to pay rent or mortgage. He said in a letter that he knew I would take care of the house and I could raise my family in it like he did his. It made him so happy knowing that I would be living there. Unfortunately, the raising my family part only lasted a few years. On to that soon. Well, after our lease expired, Alice and I moved in. It was a little sad at first, but quickly it felt nice as I could feel like I was close to him. Plus, not having to pay rent and only the taxes and insurance was nice given that we were young. In the moment, I knew after I made a few renovations, I'd be happy living there for the rest of my life. But not Allison. Yeah, obviously it was a nice place. It wasn't a mansion or anything, but again, okay, a few renovations, no big deal there. But for these gals and gold diggers that want the big giant mansion, 5,000 square feet and 6 bedrooms and shit like that, it ain't going to be enough for them. Anyhow, shortly after moving in, Allison surprised me with the news that she was pregnant. I was ecstatic as both of our families, as were both of our families. And 9 months later, we had a little girl who we named Alicia. Allison loved that name. Well, welcome Alicia to the world. By the way, SSM, she is my daughter because she looks exactly like me. I'm sure he said that because people were going to ask. During her pregnancy, she worked as long as she could, but eventually it was just me and stayed that way for a little while. While we were on one income, we made it work by sticking to a strict budget. The idea was that Allison would go back to work after a few months, and both our parents could take turns babysitting as they couldn't get enough with their granddaughter. However, I noticed as the days grew closer to Allison going back to work, her mood definitely was going downhill. Okay, here we go. This is the beginning of the end. A lot of new moms, especially with their first child, as I've observed with friends and family, they don't want to go back to work. They want to be with their kid. I can understand that. I mean, we can really have a conversation about that, but still, if they rely on 2 incomes, it is what it is. Clearly, she didn't want to leave our daughter and was beginning to make comments wishing that she didn't have to work. Eventually, more comments came about how some of her friends have husbands who make enough money that they didn't have to work. This SSM was the beginning of the end. While I understood that she didn't want to leave our daughter, women do it all the time, and our daughter would be in great hands. However, as much as I tried to be patient and explain that, it was like talking to a wall. Dude, you can, all the logic and common sense possible to her, it's not going to matter. All she's hearing and feeling is the emotions. I had that happen to a buddy. Wife made more money than him, and she had to go back to work, and she was resentful as hell to him. Guess how their marriage is going all these years later. Well, 5 months after Alicia was born, she took much more time as she could. She went back to work. She lost most of the weight that she put on and barely looked like she just had a kid. He says, did I mention that she was very good looking? Definitely an 8 even after having our daughter. I thought that once she was back working with her friends, things would go back to normal. Well, it did not. Nope. She's different now. Or this is who she always was. It wasn't long before Allison would regularly talk to me about making more money. She wanted me to get a better job, even though I loved what I was doing, and was learning not only to master my own skills, but also how this business operated. I reminded her that I'm relatively new, and in time I'd be paid more, and down the road I'm determined to start my own company. At that time, I will obviously make more money, but that won't be anytime soon. For the time being, we need to stick to our current plan and budget. Again, somebody has to be the adult here. You know? He says, oh, by the way, guys, I wasn't some cheapskate. We did go out a couple times a week for dates. We went out to eat, to the movies, a vacation once a year. Her car was nice, but it was old. She did have spending money and bought herself things, but clearly she wanted a much different life. I made sure we stuck to a budget and saved and invested our money and not pissing it away on crap every month. Good. Again, somebody had to be the adult here. But when she has friends that have fancier cars and the bigger house and all that type of crap, it's only a matter of time. You're not going to change a gold digger. I should also mention now that I grew up in a household where both my parents were blue-collar, middle class, and always lived beneath their means. They kept their cars until they practically died, always fixed things themselves if they could, looked for bargains and discounts for anything. They weren't cheap, but when you were raised by children of the Great Depression, old habits die hard. I got no problem with this. I tell you all the time, live beneath your means, guys. Whatever you got to do so you can have extra cash every month to put away and invest and grow. But a lot of people, Anyhow, the good thing was that my parents were on the same page and always put away money. My dad and grandpa could fix almost anything, so my dad used the extra money to buy homes and rent them. Aha! There you go. By the time I was a father, their wealth put them in the upper middle class range, but you never know it. Yes, we had nice things and did vacations and such, but they were always disciplined and passed this on to me. My wife, of course, grew to resent this. Here we go. Yep. Be happy your parents were that way and learn from their parents who survived the Depression. It helped you substantially. But to these gals nowadays, obviously this went down 20 years ago, but it's no fucking different. They wanted more. Anyhow, and 20 years ago, so this is probably around 2006, you got married, and social media is just starting up, so yeah, we see where this is going. Well, let's fast forward 6 years. There were a lot of good things that were going on and one giant bad one. Here is the good things. My daughter. She was now 6 years old and was a sweet little girl. She was friendly to everyone, smart, caring, and all I could ever want in a daughter. She was never a problem. Both sets of our parents loved having her over. She did well in school, now kindergarten, made friends easily, and even liked to help mom and I around the house. I struck gold with that one. Well, dude, that's wonderful, but you also raised her well. My career. It had been about 7 years since I started working, and I wasn't a rookie anymore. I was making a lot better money and took on more supervisory role at the company. We had grown in the last few years, and the owner and founder really treated me well. He was a mentor and treated me as such. He appreciated that I wanted to learn everything about the business and cared to help the operation grow and become more efficient. Dude, that's great. That's one of the perks of working for a small business. And you got to know the owner. He was probably a lot like you when he was young and started the whole thing and recognized himself in you. And that's cool. My parents were now retired and enjoying being grandparents. When they weren't traveling around their small RV, they would be here for parties, babysitting, and taking my daughter to church a couple times a month. They truly deserve this easy life after all their hard work and discipline. Well, that's awesome. Now the bad. My marriage and Allison. Well, we could see that coming. It says here, the last 6 years have been a downward spiral with Allison. She was never really the same after she had Alicia and went back to work. The girl who was happy with me and the comfortable life wanted more of what her friends had. Big houses, luxury cars, expensive vacations, basically all the crap that you see on TV and the media. I can't tell you how many times we argued over her wanting to sell the house my grandpa left me and get something newer and bigger. Oh, hell no. This guy ain't selling the house. That was what grandpa left him. I told her there was no way I'm selling this house. Good for you, man. I tried to meet her halfway in nice renovations like remodeling 2 bathrooms, the kitchen, her closet, turning the stone driveway into a macadam driveway. I was strongly even considering adding an addition to the house if we had more kids. Well, none of that was good enough for her. No, it was never going to be good enough for her. To no surprise, our bedroom life had slowed down dramatically. If we did it once a month, that was a big deal. I should have seen what was inevitably going to happen, maybe even expect it. For the last 6 years, I was just happy with our little family, moving up in my career, and enjoying an easy life. See, didn't take a whole lot to make this guy happy, but nothing was making her happy. Well, when D-Day happened, it was a few weeks after we had a big fight about her buying a new car. She had the same car before we were married, and certainly it was time for her to get a new one. She informed me that she wanted a luxury vehicle like some of her friends had. In particular, she wanted a Mercedes. Good luck with this guy. She's a waitress, for heaven's sake. It's not like she has a... Anyhow... If she was older and worked her whole life and really wanted a Mercedes, okay, but she's in her early 30s, for goodness sake. I laughed out loud at that one, as with all due respect, what does a waitress need with a Mercedes? She didn't have a career that required her to put out a certain image. It was just for her to show off and be like some of her gold-digging friends. There was no way I was going to be okay with that, given the cost of the car, insurance, inevitable repair costs, etc. Well, she didn't take that two-way and stormed out after the fight. Downward spiral, man. Good God. You're like, what happened to the girl I married? We can debate and argue if this is who she really was all along, Or she expected you to start as an electrician and 1 year later start your own company and bring in the money. I don't know what was going through her psychotic mind. But if all her friends are a bunch of gold diggers, this makes the point of pay attention to who your girl hangs out with. Well, on D-Day, when our daughter was at her parents' house, she dropped the papers in my lap and said, "I'm divorcing you." I don't know, man. I'd look back and say this is your freedom day, emancipation day. Just like that, with zero shred of emotion or empathy on her face. While my gut had been telling me that our marriage was going down the crapper, I still didn't expect that. She went on about me holding her back, and she wants more. And of course, calling me cheap. She said all her friends agree with her, and she is done. Like, get the fuck out of here. And you ain't getting Grandpa's house, and you ain't taking my daughter away from me. All I could think about was our daughter and how this could seriously hurt her. You know, the first thing he's thinking about is his daughter. Do you think the wife's thinking about the daughter? How it's going to impact her? No. Well, in that moment, any feelings I had for Allison were gone, as I knew I was a good husband and didn't deserve this. In a way, I was somewhat relieved, as I was sick of her bitching and complaining about our life. If we didn't have a daughter, this would be relatively easy for me, given that she was no longer the girl that I married. However, as she was ranting about me and why she wanted the divorce, the only thing I was thinking about was there was no way she was going to take my daughter from me or my grandpa's house. I would fight to the death to prevent that from happening. Amen, man. And he says, this is the end of part 1. After D-Day, the next few months were hell. She actually moved out of the house into an apartment not too far from her work. Alicia spent time between the both of us at my wife's apartment and was close enough to her school. I was actually shocked to find out that she didn't want to take the house, even though she could have. In the end, there was a joint custody, and she got more cash for me for my share of the house. I thought she would try to take me for every penny, but didn't, which I later found out why. Yeah, I know why. I'm sure some of you guys can figure out why. Ultimately, she wanted a fast divorce, and thank God didn't mess with me with Alicia. Our daughter was sad to not see us both at the same time, and trying to explain divorce to a happy 6-year-old was not easy. The first time I saw my daughter cry when she went to her mom's is an image that was buried in my mind, and I will never forgive my ex for her. However, karma definitely is a bitch. The daughter was happy. She's this great kid, you know, and then now she has to go off to mom's and can't be with... Obviously, dad's the favorite here, you know? Yeah, I wouldn't forgive her either. Well, to absolutely no surprise, my ex had a new boyfriend shortly after the divorce was finalized. Shocker. I got this info from her brother, who I had become close with over the years. He was seriously pissed off at his sister, and their relationship was never the same. It turns out that her new boyfriend just so happens to work at a, wait for it, tech company that has an office not too far from his sister's restaurant. In other words, she clearly met this guy at the restaurant. I don't know if they had something going on prior to her dropping the divorce papers in my lap, and frankly, I don't care, but it was definitely not an accident. Nope. Something was going on. She waited till she had her plan in place. I'm sure whether they were hooking up or not, I don't know, but definitely, you know, moves were made on the chessboard. That shows you the kind of person she is. That's why, obviously, she wanted to get through the divorce quickly, didn't want to take everything from you just to make it quick, because look who she's with. And obviously, a higher earner is going to give her that life that she wants. Her new boyfriend apparently had money, and it wasn't long before Allison moved in with him in his big mansion that many of the tech people lived on the other side of the tracks had. This meant that my daughter was also moving in. I'd be like, who the fuck is this guy around my daughter? I, of course, had a major problem with this, as it was all new. I didn't know this guy. I called her and demanded to meet the guy before her daughter moved anywhere. To no surprise, I got a lot of attitude. Attitude, bitch, I'll show you some attitude. Well, I didn't waste any time, and we met at her parents' house, neutral ground. I got there first and chatted with her parents, who were clearly not happy with her rushing into things, let alone divorcing me. Dude, that's good. The fact that the family are good to you, that says a lot. Well, the next thing you know, she pulls into the driveway, and I wait for it, black Mercedes. Gee, I wonder who paid for that. Of course, the guy had to pay a price for her hoo-ha. What a jackass. Well, out she came with this guy who looked like a nerd who was trying to look really cool. It all added up that clearly she sought this guy out when he and his coworkers would go to the restaurant. And for a dork like him, this was a dream come true. Again, Allison was good looking. As much as I was pissed about the situation, I couldn't help but laugh in my head, thinking that now she's your problem, asshole. Anyway, we begrudgingly shook hands, chatted, etc. It was actually polite and didn't show an ounce of disrespect towards me, so that was how I met Mike, and the next chapter of my wife's life began. And there you go. And obviously, this is going to be the future husband and future stepfather of your daughter. But you know what, man? I mean, that sucks. But could have been way worse. But you're free. Again, yeah, she's his problem now. And knowing how this ends. Well, it wasn't long after she moved in with him that the announcement came that Allison was engaged. Oh, big surprise. When we would drop off or pick up Alicia, I could see this giant ring on her finger that clearly would make her friends envious. I'd also like to point out that her wardrobe definitely didn't look the same. I'm not a fashion guy, but the clothes definitely looked expensive along with her purses, shoes, and guess who was paying for all that? Oh, and she was no longer working at the restaurant. Of course not. Remember her bitching and complaining about having to go back to work? Now she has her Mercedes and that lifestyle. That's just getting started. Well, anyway, they were married about 18 months after we divorced. Oh, for goodness sake. She didn't waste any time. She's locking him in. Oh, was there a prenup? I'm probably going to guess not. Everyone thought it was ridiculous. Again, trying to explain that to my daughter was not fun. Fortunately, she's smart and took it better than I thought. She did say that Mike was nice to her, and she liked her new room and the swimming pool. I did swear to myself that they turned our daughter into some spoiled brat asshole, I would take both their heads. At least he was good to her. This could be way worse, that he was mean to her and all this stuff. I mean, I'm counting the blessings here. This could be way worse. Anyway, SSM, ever since the divorce had been finalized, I was determined to make my life about two things. Number one, taking care of my daughter and not letting her be turned into some spoiled a-hole by my ex and Magic Mike. And number two, move things along to eventually have my own business. Yes, exactly. Take care of your daughter and your purpose. Notice he doesn't say anything here about getting a girlfriend or remarrying or anything. No. He's been married. He saw what happened there. He got his great daughter. For him, that's enough. So that's what I did. When Alicia was with me, we did all the usual things we always did. Thank God she's a well-adjusted and happy child. She really did take things in her stride with her mom's new marriage. She did well in school and was a good kid and clearly didn't let the money from her mom and stepdad impact her too much. When she was at my house, she would do chores like sweeping, setting the table, etc. She learned to cook with my mom and dad, and in the summer, when her mom would take her on lavish vacations with Mike's money, we kept it simple on camping trips, national parks in my parents' RV, and she loved it all. I even took her to Disney once. Good. I'm glad you're having her do chores. That's very important. Just little things like that helping out, so she's not like expecting to be served upon. And good vacations, you know. RVs, national parks, that's cool. And you dealt with Disney in the summer heat. Let's see. Also during this time, I was 35 years old and ready to go into business for myself. This would be a huge leap as I never owned a business before. Just help manage one. I had a friend who owned his own garage, so he was a mentor in how I could go about this. The company I've been working for the last 10 years was in a great position. I planned to operate far enough away that it wouldn't impact their business. I would have to do a hell of a commute, but I was still going to keep my house. Yeah, good. You don't want to compete with the guy that's been good to you all these years and all that. When I told my boss that I was ready to leave, he wasn't at all surprised, as he was once like me. He told me he knew it was only a matter of time. See, he knows you. He knows. What happened next, I never really saw coming. He said that he can't afford to lose me and proposed I take a partial ownership of this company. There you go. It's a hell of a lot less risk. That way I don't have to have the risk and spend all the money on starting a new operation from scratch, but will be the only owner other than him and get a big chunk of the profits. He would sell me my share of his company at a very fair price and I could pay him over time. He just didn't want to lose me. Oh, and since he was in his mid-50s, he would sell me the company when he retired. But jokingly, he said an old workhorse like him might not retire until he's 90. Again, you two are cut from the same cloth. That's a pretty good deal, man. Look, you're a co-owner. Okay, a lot of businesses are like that. You're a co-owner. I don't know how much percentage of it you got, but obviously it's sizable enough. You're now getting the profits. I'm going to guess the co-work, since you're a more supervisory role, they already see you as a manager, so this works. Dude, I think this is a good deal. Well, I thought about it for a couple of days and decided it was the best deal I could do. Yes, I wouldn't be starting my own business, but I would now be a co-owner and would get all of it one day. My income would spike now that I would be getting a big cut of the profits. So I accepted his offer, took care of all the legal stuff, and handed him a big check for the part of the company. Aside from having Alicia, it was the best decision of my life. This truly came at a time that I needed it. Yeah, and you deserve that, man. And here's the thing. Do you think, guys, his lifestyle's changes ever since now he's getting a big chunk of the profits? I mean, he had to buy out for a fair price the share of the company, that what he's getting, but he's getting a better return off that purchase. Yeah, I guarantee he probably kept the same vehicle, no new house, obviously. Meanwhile, his ex would have, if he was married to her, she'd be demanding her Mercedes and a new house and all that. Nope. Well, fast forward 9 years. Okay, we're getting to the really good stuff. I'm now 44, and Alicia's 17. She has grown into a wonderful young woman who, thank God, was not impacted by my ex's and her husband's flashy lifestyle. Yes, she always has the newest phone from them and definitely dresses in fancy clothes, but she's a good kid and certainly going somewhere in this world. Ever since she turned 16, she spends more time with me. Her mother was smart enough to not fight her on this. She works for me in the summertime and as my assistant and has done a fantastic job. She also does excellent in school and wants to go to college. I could definitely see her majoring in business or even law. She has the mind for it. Dude, that's great. And obviously you're raising her in a way that if she goes up to college, she's not going to be on OnlyFans or turn into one of these feminist harpies or something like that. We can all hope, but I doubt that's going to happen. And then one of the things that's cool about you being a co-owner of the company, yeah, she can come work for you in the summer times and learn some basic skills and all that because she's your daughter. You know, that's cool. Work has been great for me. Now as an owner, I was able to implement things to have the company grow further. We have several more employees to accommodate the new business that has been coming in over the years. Dude, awesome. Along with the new business came more profits that have gone to me. I've used the extra money to invest in stocks, real estate, and have done quite well. Wonderful. Good for you. I may not be living in a McMansion, but I'm doing quite well. And yes, I still drive the same truck that my wife hated 10 years ago. I knew it. Now for the karma part of the story. Okay. Crack open your beers, guys. You're going to love this. Ever since my wife and Mike got married, they definitely have been living the life. Mike had been working for a big tech company and clearly made a lot of money. The thing is, I always thought that their lifestyle didn't quite add up. I eventually learned what he did for a living was programming and certainly was compensated well. However, with all the fancy vacations to Europe and Asia flying first class, my wife put all over Facebook, golf club memberships, new cars every few years, luxury cars, the clothes, the shoes, the purses, electronics, and oh yeah, Mike's boat, it just didn't add up. They also had a kid together who's now 8 years old. I never said out loud, but I always thought that he was Allison's insurance policy. You bet your ass about that. Uh-huh. So your daughter has a half-brother. Well, cutting to the chase, it seems that there has been trouble brewing in paradise over the last year. Oh, what could possibly be wrong? My ex-brother-in-law informed me that Mike lost his job last year due to it. AI. He's one of those numbers. I feel bad for the good people that lost their jobs because of AI, but a guy like him who clearly something was going on before he got married and all that, and is just a jackass with money, I don't feel bad for him. And I don't feel bad for your wife. Guess that lifestyle's going away. And has not been able to find something new. However, even though he lost his job, they've been living their lives no differently than before. Fucking morons. In other words, they're spending whatever money they have, racking up credit cards, all that to put on the show. Apparently, my ex was visiting her family one night and drank too much and broke down crying about everything. Aw, poor girl. It seems their lifestyle is catching up with them, as they are practically broke. For the last decade, they have been spending pretty much every penny that has come in on the lifestyle, with little left to show for it. The stock he had in the company was sold to finance the new cars, his boat, the lifestyle. The house is still owned by the bank. For the last year, they've been selling his stock and then racking up credit cards to keep up appearances at the golf club, etc. Meanwhile, you have been growing that business, making more money, putting it away, and you got more money than them. And she left you because you were cheap and couldn't give her that lifestyle. Couldn't happen to a nicer girl and him. I know I'm going to hell, but I did everything I could not to laugh out loud. Allison left me because I was cheap and couldn't give her the lifestyle she felt entitled to, and now she's about to lose it. Meanwhile, I've been working hard and have one hell of a nice life. And again, I still remember my daughter crying the first time she had to go away to her mom's after we separated. I never forgave her for that, and now payback is here. Damn right, man. I like how you think. So SSM, that is the abrupt ending to my story. Man, I wish you would have written more about this part, but okay. We get the picture. Who knows how things are going to turn out for them? Knowing my ex, she's no doubt planning her exit strategy. Oh, you bet your ass. The only difference now is that her looks have definitely aged and she can't get guys to pay attention to her like she used to. Maybe Mike will get a new job and that can get them back on track, but given how AI is impacting the tech sector, I wouldn't hold my breath. Well, Mike obviously has to learn skills how to use AI in a way that's in demand and all that, but I won't hold my breath. Even if he did get something decent, he wouldn't be able to provide the life that Allison thinks she deserves. I don't know, maybe she'll end up at the restaurant again. I think she would drive her car off a cliff than ever work again. I just feel bad for my daughter's half-brother. He does seem like a good kid. Yeah, that's going to be a mess for him. So guys, there you go. If there's any moral to the story, it is wait long enough and karma will strike those that do you wrong. Always be smart with your money and not piss it away on crap. Old school hard work and principles never die. Thanks for listening. And P.S., if there's any interesting developments, I will send an update. Dude, you better send an update. For God's sakes, this is hilarious. Your story is fantastic, man. I'm so proud of you. I mean, I know you're like 2 years younger than me. I don't want to sound, that may sound weird, but I am proud of you, regardless, you know. That is great. Thank God you were raised the way you were by your grandparents and your parents to not be stupid with money. You had the discipline early on to stick with things. I mean, most guys would have caved to their wives, getting a Mercedes and all that shit, and it would have thrown you off course. It sounds like you were comfortable, but you stuck to a budget. And, of course, she had to make you out to be cheap and all these other things because her psychotic gold digger friends thought you were because you weren't behaving like most people. And yeah, the divorce was hell and obviously very hard for a while, but I'm glad you persevered and put your energy into your daughter as well as, the business. You know, a lot of people would have tried to compete with them because obviously they were taking your daughter on the lavish vacations and all that stuff like that. And you could have done the same thing, but no, you were having her do chores and taking her on camping trips and stuff like that, not taking her off to fucking Monaco or some goddamn thing like that. No, you raised her the way you wanted to raise her. And he did it right because she sounds like a good kid. So good for you, man. And your ex, she got what she deserved. This is freaking funny. And I don't feel bad for that guy either, you know. Yeah, he was polite to you. And I'm glad he was good to your daughter. I mean, that's nice to hear. Could have been way worse. But still, you know, something was going on behind the scenes. And anybody that's done with money, I don't feel bad for them. So great story, man. So absolutely let us hear some updates down the road. There's going to be updates, you know, like she's going to divorce him and get nothing, ha, 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 amongst many other things. So definitely send it my way. I'd love to hear it. And guys, if you'd like to hear an update to the story about these wonderful people, let the guy know in the comment section. I'm sure he'll do it. So great story, man. It really made my day. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.